Hey there, my name is Liam Birdie, and I am a journalism student at the University of Ottawa. And today I'm going to give you a quick synopsis and review of the book Media Markets and Democracy by C. Edwin Baker, which he wrote in 2002 for scholarship regarding communication studies, societal studies, and political studies. I'm going to go over the strengths and weaknesses of the book in a minute, but first of all, I'm going to provide you with a quick context and synopsis of the book so you can sort of ground yourself in that first, and then I'm going to give you a sneak peek into sort of Baker's arguments, his thesis, and what he thinks is wrong with the media market in that time. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so from very early on in the book, Baker makes it quite clear that his main purpose, his main catalyst behind actually writing the book was to sort of disprove and to counter argue those who argue that government intervention in media markets prevents audiences from getting the media products that they ideally want. So, in other words, he's sort of taking the leftist stance that the audience or the consumer's choice ought to prevail in these situations, but that this is ultimately unattainable in an unregulated market, which the right wing argument tends to stand for. He also states that he takes a class based theoretical approach, which he says he uses to constantly predict that the law and the policy and the regulation in the media market will choose the solution that adds to the ruling economic class's wealth or power. So we kind of see a bit of a Marxist stance rubbed off here. So from there, Baker breaks up the book into three main parts or three main pillars. And he says he does this in order for the reader to sort of grasp or understand the subject more effectively. The first part of the book is about the unique aspects of media products and communication markets that cause them to fail. So he says that these sort of markets can't be compared to those that sell sort of toasters or cars or any other consumer product. The second part of the book deals with the four different definitions of democracy, and he outlines the ideal ways in which the press should function under each in order for a healthy society to thrive based on this. The third part of the book explores international free trade of media products and how the media trade is more or less captured and controlled by the United States media industry. Now, to keep in mind, this was written in 2002, so there's not much covered about the internet and anything like that. So it's strictly based on television, newspaper, radio, and movie industry. On the most basic level, though, this book was written in order to define the proper practice of journalism and media policy in the United States. So first and foremost, a huge strength of this book was attributed to the fact that Baker is without a doubt a very intelligent expert and a leading thinker within scholarship in this field, and he knows the ins and outs of the media market very, very well. He analyzes the media market situation prior to 2002 very well, and in my opinion, he very accurately describes how the media market in the US got to their monopolistic or oligopolistic state. So in this sense, I would argue that it's a very accurate strength of this book. Baker's primary field of study and scholarship is in economics, which allows for a very in-depth analysis of why media products and communication sectors fail when compared to regular consumerist products and markets. Another strength of this book was Baker's writing style was very cyclical, so every chapter had the same structure and the same sort of categories, but with different topics. So he kept using the same cycle over and over, and it allowed for the reader to sort of get a better image of exactly what he was trying to paint. So, in my opinion, there are a few more weaknesses than there are strengths in Baker's book. Most notably, Baker presents some extreme difficulties in readability, and it's often very, very difficult to get through a chapter without having to go back and reread the entire thing once or twice more just to fully grasp it. This might be attributed to his background in the field of economics, but on the most basic level, I wouldn't recommend it to the non academic reader. I also found that Baker very rarely, if ever, used any hard hitting evidence or empirical sort of scientific support to back up his claims, which I found very hypocritical and contradictory considering one of his major arguments against the opposition was the fact that they often use inflated and simplified claims. Finally, I was very disappointed with the lack of conclusion that Baker provided in his book. The entire book, it felt like he was building up to some sort of epic conclusion that was going to counteract the fact that we are in a monopolistic state and come up with a solution to break this down, but really all he does is criticize the existing model. So, to conclude, Media Markets and Democracy by C. Edwin Baker offers a great insight into the U.S. media market situation in 2002 and the corruptive forces that take place in the economic, policy, and regulatory spheres. Having said that, I would not recommend this book if you have the choice of reading other scholarship in this field. Reason being, this book is incredibly complexly written and is very difficult to translate and decipher in order to fully grasp what he is trying to say. For this reason, a huge time investment is required to decipher everything. Finally, I wouldn't recommend this book for the fact that it was written in 2002, so for the most part, it doesn't take into consideration everything the internet has accomplished since it has come into fruition. Therefore, the only situation that I would recommend this book is if you were taking a historical look or in a historical context to the media market in the United States. That's it for me, and until next time, I'm Liam Brady.